Hi guys, I'm Nayab, your local engineer, talking about my journey for 5 years in corporate and as a junior software engineer on this channel. So if you're interested in any of those, subscribe below and let's get started. Today's video is 5 things I wish I knew before I started my job as a software engineer. So let's get right into it. Number 1, you don't have to know everything, but you need to be able to learn fast. I'm sure everyone says it out there, and I've watched 10 videos who say this, and I didn't understand it fully until I started doing it myself and I was in the role. Most 99% of the things you learn at uni, you will not need when you're actually working your job. Your first job will teach you more than uni ever could, but you need to be able to keep up with the pace of the job. Yeah, you know how to code basic languages like C#, but that's not what they hire you for. They hire you to be able to integrate those skills into their systems. Their code might be written in a legacy style and you're using modern frameworks. You need to be able to adapt and learn quickly. When I first joined, the company was using legacy code, and then suddenly they transitioned to using new languages which I'd never even heard of, and I had to adapt quickly. Yes, I had to spend hours in my own time learning it, but that's something they took me on for. I'm a junior. What they're hiring me for is my ability to learn and grow with the company. And the truth of the matter is, the seniors don't expect you to know everything. One of the managers, when he was interviewing for other juniors alongside me, he said that in the interview he expected them to say at least, I don't know, 3 out of the 5 questions he was asking, and he was absolutely fine with that. That's what he was expecting. But what he's expecting you to be once you're on his team is to be resourceful. You need to be able to use the internet, Stack Overflow, searching is your superpower. Get good at it, get good at researching, and it'll just save you so much time if you're resourceful. Instead of having to go ask people and wait for their time, if you can search it, it will save you tons and tons of time and resources. When you're in your job, the best thing you can do is make your own personal set of documentation for all the tickets you do, which is what I do personally. I just use a Google Doc which follows through, and recently I made a Notion page which helps me process it all properly because the Google Doc wasn't helping. But you can do something similar and you can learn from those tickets over and over again. You'll be working with a handful of repositories and code bases, so it'll just help you get all of that in one place and refer to it back and forth in case you forget any little things that I mentioned to you on the fly. Things are always mentioned on a fly, and that's why communication becomes very key, which brings me on to number 2, that coding is the easy part. Communicating what you're coding and what you're doing with your time is the hard part. When you're a junior, doing the same piece of code as a senior is going to take you almost 3 times longer, which is what's happened from my experience. If it's taking me 3 times longer, I need to communicate why it's taking me 3 times longer. It's because I'm having to research, because I'm having to learn the repo. It's a completely new code base which I've not touched while I've been here. And to be able to communicate this builds credibility and trust with your seniors, which is what you want to do. You don't just want them to assume that you're just loitering about all day and you just touched the code base for an hour and you haven't made any progress at all, whereas you've been sat at your desk for the full 8 hours just trying to figure out that one piece of code. They need to know. That's how they begin to trust you and give you more work. The best developers aren't just good at code, they're good at giving the context as well. Knowing the why behind what they're coding is very, very important. Which brings me on to point number 3. Knowing why is almost 90% of the time more important than the how of the project. And in uni, we know the why. We're making that project because it's for an assignment. When I was in uni, I did 70 projects outside of my uni assignments just because I enjoyed it. That was my why, was because I enjoy it and I'm interested in this. That's not a why you can justify when you're at work. They don't care if you enjoy it or not, you're going to do it anyway. And knowing why you're doing the project makes it more meaningful not only to you, but you can code it in a way which is more efficient and useful to the infrastructure and can be multi-purpose. So knowing that you're making a component of the code base which will aid the customer journey and help them in that particular phase, it makes it more resourceful for you, and then you can accommodate it with different code changes as well. And it will also give you context on where your code is being used, how you're contributing to the systems, and make you an actual active contributor into the whole business rather than just a small cog in a big machine, which most of the time you don't want to be. You want to feel part, like you're giving value to the business, and knowing the why behind the systems is what's going to give you that intrinsic motivation to make the code better and more efficient so it works faster, so the customers have a nicer time. And I'll go on to number 4. The best way to stand out is to make something easier for others. I don't know if I've done this personally, but this is how I've witnessed engineers stand out to me and stand out in the business overall. They just simplify things so much. A junior joined alongside me and he managed to automate a system which seniors were trying to do for 3 years and had just not had the time to do, and he just managed to do it in his free time. It just made him stand out immediately amongst the whole team. It was like, this is so fantastic. He just made the process so much easier. He did this without being assigned a ticket, which gave it so much more value. He took his initiative to take on work and streamline the processes. And so to give value, he's given value, and so he's getting recognition in exchange for it. Everything you give, everything you get is in exchange for the value you give. That's a principle you should always keep in mind when you're at work. You'll only get as much as the value you provide. When I've streamlined processes, they've come from tickets, but they have led to recognition. It's been like, oh, Nayab is capable of doing this thing. She has these skills and she's made this process simpler for this team. And so, and you can point out to these moments as well in your one-to-ones or reflections that I actually did this process and it sped up this team and I've created efficiency within the business. So what I want is a pay raise because I've made your life easier, and that makes it easier in the future to negotiate these pays. And that's the sort of process. I'll talk about negotiation in a future video, and there's just a lot more to go into it than just that, but that's a core component of your progression and how you're going to progress as a developer, which no one tells you, that you actually have to create value. Passively working is expected when you're a junior. They don't have high expectations. They don't expect you to be a world-class automator. That's not the expectation. They want you to grow, they want you to learn and develop, and they want you to be in the business in the long term. And the more you start to understand the systems and the context behind it and where it's used and how you're contributing to it, the more your mental knowledge base will grow and the more you can contribute to the business, which is what we want to do. We want to grow with the companies we're with whilst also growing ourselves. And those are the 4 tips. And whilst we're growing with the company, we're going to get feedback as well, especially in our one-to-ones or when a ticket doesn't go so right. And as a junior, this feedback can be like personal hit to you. You're like, my entire world has collapsed, I've just done everything wrong. But that's not the case. That was my mindset on it. Whenever I got feedback, I just felt like shattering and crying, but I didn't. We persevere and we keep going and we keep moving forward. So I tend to go down rabbit holes, and personally in my first ever one-to-one, my manager told me you go too deep into rabbit holes. But in my defense, going down those rabbit holes gave me such great context of the company's infrastructure that I pretty much understand so much of it, and I'm so happy with my understanding of it. I do not understand all of it, but the repositories and code bases I work with, I have a strong understanding of it from going down those rabbit holes. But he gave me that feedback, and the context of that feedback is, or what he wants to intend is, don't spend so much time on your tickets because they're not that difficult. So I have to embrace that feedback and decrease my turnover time for my tickets. He didn't want to say it directly because I'm a junior and he's really accommodating to the amount of time I take on tickets, especially when I first started. But I took that feedback on, and now when I go down a rabbit hole, I find myself going down a rabbit hole which I can easily avoid. I catch myself out on it and I'm like, you need to improve on this, you need to act on it. And in my next one-to-one, he was like, we're all good, we're moving forward. And so when you get this constructive feedback, it's nothing personal, it's your manager's way or your teammates' way of encouraging you and helping you improve. The point is, be optimistic and don't take it personally. You want to grow as well, and the way to grow is through this feedback, and you can change and adapt once you get this feedback. So those were the 5 takeaways. I'll just do a quick recap of them. Number 1, communicate clearly. Number 2, learn how to debug. Number 3, understand the why behind your tickets and what you're working on. Number 4 is to embrace feedback and make constructive. And number 5, make other people's life easier and you will stand out. Once you stand out, it's easier to get what you want. The main thing I'll say to anyone is just don't be scared of being a junior developer and asking for help and learning how to why, because you'll learn more in the 6 months of your junior developer job than you will in uni, taking boot camps or doing as much you can outside individually. It's just the nature of a job and the work that you do. It will help you grow and it'll push you to grow. If you're in your first job and you're a junior developer and you're learning, drop a comment down below of what you found most difficult, what you learned even in your first few months or first years. Let us know and share it down below. And I have a newsletter down below as well, which I post for junior developers on how to make the most of being a junior developer, how to learn more on their finances as well, how to manage them as a junior developer. I also have a video going through my pay as a junior developer as well, which you can check out on the channel, and you can check out all the other resources I have down below as well. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!